I did that too. Apple trees.
Yeah, but you could just branch or
5 o'clock, everybody. You guys ready?
Let's do it.
All right. We are getting started here, everybody. Today is Monday, February 3rd, 2020. It is 5 p.m., so I'm going to call to order the regular meeting of the Village of Oregon Board. So roll call, please.
Horton.
Here.
Carpenter.
Here.
Glish.
Here.
Peterson.
Here.
Bollig.
Here.
Jacobson.
Here.
Donovan.
Here.
Thank you. All right, so first of all, our public appearance. 3A, we have a discussion with Oregon Cares and possible board action regarding possibly creating guidelines for click and collect transactions. So, yeah, if you want to come up and tell us. Yes, please.
Okay.
Yep.
Good evening. I'm Cynthia DiCamelli. This is Amy Miller. You all know us, but we're here with a slightly different hat on. Perhaps. We are here representing Oregon Cares. Oregon Cares is a community coalition. We have about 30 members, and our mission, as it has been for about the last 10 years, is to provide a basis and an action plan to prevent youth substance abuse in our community. And we approach this from two different ways. One, a friend of ours refers to this as the frog in the pond model. When you have a frog and in your backyard pond and that frog starts to get sick, you want to do two things. First of all, you want to move the frog out of the pond and figure out how to make that frog better. But you also don't want to put the frog back into a pond that is not healthy. So you need to fix the individual. You need to work on things that will impact individuals, and that is education, and that is those kinds of things that impact individual members of our community and individual children. But you also need to address the environment that those frogs, those children, are going back into. This board has been terrific about addressing many of the concerns that apply to children, apply to alcohol consumption in our community. There's something new on the horizon, and it's called click and collect. Is it ever going to happen in Oregon? I don't know, but I am of the opinion that we need to be sort of ahead of the curve, as we have been in many other instances. So click and collect is a trend in grocery and general merchandise retailing, where you go online, you order your goods, and then you drive up and you collect them at the store. In some communities, and with some retailers, you can order alcohol that way. And it has spread throughout the state. Our good friends over in Stoughton have a Walmart that is very anxious to do this, and so far they have held this off. Is it happening here? Probably not. But is it the marketing of the future? Yeah, I think it is, because it doesn't take, it's a software problem, really. I mean, it's not very difficult to do. So what I would like you to do is think about amending the local ordinances that have to do with what a licensed premise is, because right now, we require face-to-face contact. We require the transaction has to occur within a certain space. We really don't want that transaction occurring in a parking lot. We don't, because the concern is, are there underage drinkers, underage people in the car that are picking up the booze? Are there, is the person who is picking the product up sober? So are they going to imbibe it in their cars? All of those things are concerns. So I have provided you with two sample ordinances, one from Madison, one from Green Bay. I didn't provide you with this, but I'd be happy to send you the link. Julia Sherman at the Wisconsin Alcohol Policy Project has a little white paper on the click and collect policy. I will also send that to Mike and have him share that with you, and I'd be happy to take questions.
Any questions? Yeah, Amanda?
I thought of a couple here. I like the idea. I just want to clarify some things. Early on, in both of these agreements, it says that the pickup person must be the same person as the orderer.
Yes,
So that person, whoever orders online, has to be present. That is the ID you're checking.
yes.
And then later it says if the pickup person is not the same as the orderer, that the driver has to be 21 or older. So I was really confused.
Yeah,
like-
and that's why I gave you multiple samples.
Okay.
Because, and I think both of the ordinance I gave you, those may have been draft forms, so you'll have to, I defer to our ordinance writing guru for clarification.
Okay. We could clean that up and say that the orderer has to be present. Would there be exceptions, like, let's say a husband orders something online and the wife goes to pick it up? Is that allowed, or could we make an exception for something like that as long as they're both 21 and older? Same
I think
household,
The
or?
bigger is back up, and the first step may be to determine, is that a practice we want in Oregon?
Right.
So one piece. Second piece would be, if we do, what parameters? And that may be what you just read has an or in it.
Okay.
That it still requires a license, but then is the person who is bringing the products outside 21? You know, the whole process, the store process should also be reviewed to make sure each and every step along the way is safe for all involved.
You know that no group sales idea?
Yeah, right. And then I had one other question. Madison's policy had a 4-hour wait period in there. Do you know what the purpose of that is? Can you explain?
Some places actually limit the hours during which you can purchase. Madison, I think, chose, rather than to limit the hours, say, you can't drunk dial, pick up, or drunk order your booze and then go pick it up right away. We have, 10 of the top 20 binge drinking cities in the country in our state. We need to reduce the ability to acquire large quantities of alcohol.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know about a wait period, though. I'm thinking, well, what if I was having a party?
I think
and
most
in a
stores would
hurry and I wanted
impose,
to pick
I
up
think most
something?
stores would impose some sort of wait period because they have to send somebody out to, into the store, pick the order, bag it, prepare it for pickup. So it's not going to happen in 20 minutes.
That's true. All right. But we have some leeway there. That's really the main
Absolutely.
reason. Because if they're checking for sobriety when the person picks it up, it shouldn't. I'm trying to. All right. Anyway, we can talk about it.
Other questions?
David?
I'm not opposed to the concept, but I'm a little concerned that so much of it is in the ordinance itself. Some of the criteria that have to be satisfied in order for it to work, probably under section 2,
Are you in the,
I'm in the one from Green Bay. And I'm not sure that all these fit this comment or question. But from my perspective, if you have something in an ordinance, it's very difficult to change it, even to add to it, if we wanted to add to it later. But I was wondering, is there any flexibility in putting this and getting an ordinance established for, click and collect, but then rather than have everything in the ordinance, have guidelines that have to satisfy provision 1, which talks about putting together a plan. And that plan could require everyone to meet those guidelines. And those guidelines would be very clear, very specific. And because they would be a criteria that would be approved by the board in terms of guidelines, they would carry as much weight maybe as the ordinance. But we could change, we could add, modify,
Sure.
or whatever
Sure.
on a much quicker basis if we do that.
sure. I think that's the beauty of local governance. You can choose what is most appropriate for our community. I would urge, however you do this, to make sure that whatever you put in place is enforceable, because there's a great picture of, that a friend of mine uses, and, you know, the fingers kind of crossed behind your back. Promises aren't enforceable. So it has to be something that you can say, you have to follow these guidelines, whether that's in ordinance or it's an addendum to the ordinance, doesn't matter.
One more question, Jean.
Yeah, sure.
Are you aware of any grocery stores that just say, we don't allow alcoholic beverages to be sold on a click and collect concept?
I don't know if Woodman's does.
And I don't know if Kroger does.
And,
Because Kroger is the bigger pick and save. I don't believe at this point, but from a push to market,
It's
I
coming.
mean, as we see with everything,
We were just talking here, I know of a friend of mine in Oregon who actually, I don't know, I think it's through the Woodman's, I guess, but they actually click and it's delivered straight to the door.
yes, there are places that do that. But
And
I don't think you
but
can get alcohol.
I was gonna
You
say, I
can't
don't
do
know if
alcohol
that
that way.
involves alcohol or
Because,
anything like that.
yeah, because you have to do it has to be on a licensed
On a
premise. The
licensed
transaction
premises.
has to happen on a licensed
Okay,
premise.
that makes sense.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah,
about that?
please.
So, I'm not really as knowledgeable as I'd like to be about
That's
these issues,
terrific.
but- So here's just an example of a question I'm asking myself. Let's say we have a licensed establishment today.
Mm-hmm.
And the premises description for that licensed establishment is the interior of, say,
Yes.
of the structure, okay?
Yes,
If we didn't have an ordinance like this, but, you know, we're operating under kind of established law governing alcohol licenses, would it be lawful for that establishment today to receive a phone call and accept an order for the sale of alcohol and accept payment, say by a credit card transaction over the phone, if, and I have kind of two variations on this. If, one is if they say, fine, we'll take your order, we'll take your payment over the phone, you need to come to our premises, come in, show us your ID, and then we will give you the material you've purchased. Question number one, is that legal today under Wisconsin law?
I think if they complete the transaction, so they take the credit card, but when they come in, they sign the receipt.
So they taken the information card number over the phone, but they don't finalize the processing of the credit card payment until, so right now, under current law, you believe that
That's what I believe.
that's what would be
But-
required today.
I believe that.
So that means today, someone who wanted to do that kind of a transaction would have to come to the licensed premises, come in, show the ID, or at least, well, potentially show the ID if they're asked, but at least complete the
Yes,
payment.
Yes.
They can't pay online today under current law.
that's my understanding.
So if that's the case, why do you need to, we need to change the ordinances to deal with this click and
Because,
up thing?
because businesses are extending the definition of their licensed premise to include their parking lot.
But they can't do that, because we define their licensed premises when we issue the license.
Right, but every year that changes, right?
No.
No?
I mean,
But every year they have the option.
Every year they have to apply, and then this body decides whether to approve the premises or not. So that's why I'm wondering is, if we are careful in how we're defining the licensed premises to not include, say, the parking lot,
That would absolutely,
would that take care of
that would
this?
absolutely take care of this.
It says it in the front of this, that every year they have, that they do this, they have to do a change of premises with their common council. That's like in these sample
Well, they would
agreements.
have, so really what this is, but I'm saying, this is already the law. If you want to do this today, and your premises description is your, you know, your physical building, inside the building, and it doesn't include the parking lot, it's already the case that if you wanted to complete these transactions in the parking lot, in other words, you would have to come in and get a change in a premises description. That's why I'm trying to figure out is, this seems to me to be unnecessary, but maybe I'm missing something.
and it may be unnecessary with the current board and the current background knowledge, But when you look at some of these ordinances for places that are having new businesses, and obviously we're one of those communities of growth, to make sure that that understanding is there.
And
What-
yeah. I would just, one other thing I would say is that this village and this board has developed an extensive and good process for vetting licenses and premises descriptions. We already have a pretty substantial vetting process in place.
Yeah, so how about John and then David?
So I was just wondering though, Matt, to your point, some establishments, when you order online, they don't take the items to the car. You walk in and just grab them or talk to somebody. So in that instance, wouldn't we want to make sure that they would be having an additional layer of protection regarding checking IDs? I mean, I would hope they were doing that anyways, but,
You mean, so I'm not sure I'm following. So in other words, if somebody calls in, places the order, they have to come into the physical store
Yeah.
to pay, to
just
complete
pick it up.
payment.
You don't need to.
They
You don't
don't
need
need
to
to-
pay, not complete payment, they just walk in and, like if I go to, sorry, I ordered
So that
from
was my
Target a lot.
question
I
is,
just walk in,
my
give
question
my
was,
name.
is it allowed under current law to pay online or pay by phone, not pay at the store, and just come and pick it up, having already paid online or via telephone or something? And I thought the answer was, no, you still under current law have to come in and pay.
For alcohol.
For alcohol.
And to me, that's why I'm just trying to understand, you know, if in fact current law is, no, you can pay online and then just show up and go in and pick it up without having to pay, that's different, but
Because if you can pick it up without having to pay, then it's not a face-to-face transaction.
and it has to be face-to-face under current law,
Under
correct?
current law.
So that's, again, I'm trying to understand what's broken that we're trying to fix.
David?
Well, what about the situation where you have Bluetooth technology, where you have a mobile card reader? You can do that at the curbside, you don't have to come into the store, you just pick up your groceries.
Still illegal, it has to be
It's
face-to-face.
face-to-face, the guy's holding the card reader.
He'd be outside.
Outside?
System.
Now you're
Could be, doesn't have to be.
But it's illegal if it's outside the licensed
They're,
premises.
they're standing inside the doorway.
Inside the door?
Yeah.
And somebody's outside the
Yeah.
door?
What's the difference?
I don't see
Well,
how
there's-
that's any different than any other transaction that happens.
So the difference is the like stores like Hy-Vee and Walmart, you order online and then you just pull into a parking space and they come out. They do come out with readers and they take your payment and they can do it that way. Well, they can do it all online if there's no alcohol. But if there's alcohol, then they have to bring the payment out to you and do it at your car.
And they have to get a
And
premises
exactly.
change.
So
Yes.
that is the instance you're looking for where if you're picking up more than just alcohol, or if you're ordering something at a liquor store where it's all alcoholic, you'd have to get that extra thing, but that would be people coming to the car rather than people in the car going into the store.
And I'm
It's a
the attorney in
convenience
Stoughton
thing.
as well, so I understand Walmart
And
said,
Stoughton
"Please let
has
us do
basically
this."
just said no.
So we're not gonna change your premises description.
Right.
But they don't have an ordinance like this.
Right,
And that's why I'm
right.
wondering, why do we need an ordinance?
I'm opening the conversation. This is sort of one extreme, and if in order to manage this, we can do it with guidelines, if we can do it with other means, addenda to existing ordinance, terrific.
Yes, Amanda?
I like the idea of putting it in an ordinance because we do want protections in place for the future. I mean, board members can change and I like having a more control over who can have access to alcohol. I mean, we don't want to make it too easy. And it doesn't mean it's not changeable in the future, but putting it in writing in an ordinance makes it clear for any business that would intend to do this.
And if you do it before anybody is starting to think about it, they know what hoops they have to jump through. They know what the expectations are up front.
All right, so it sounds like we've gotten some information. Yes, Jerry?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this since I first looked at my agenda here. I'm not ready to embrace anything like this. I think if Stoughton wants to do it, or a neighboring community would like to do it, and because circumstances change, I don't want to draft anything now or spend money, attorney time drafting anything that may be obsolete in the very near future. And again, stepping back to my opening statement, I don't want to encourage any more alcohol consumption in the village. It just doesn't, it seems to be against everything we've done in the past. I think we've got a fine ordinance. I think going forward, if the public insists on doing something, we can take that up at that point. But again, I don't want to open an expensive discussion or expensive review for the attorney until we have a clear-cut path here. And I don't know how many board members would even embrace this concept. You know, we're having troubles in the bars making sure IDs get checked, and now we're gonna take it out to the parking lot. It just seems to be contrary to what we're trying to do here. So that's my opinion.
So maybe, so I could so I think we have the information.
You do?
So thank you for presenting it tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And then perhaps the,
I will also share the alcohol policy project paper
Sure.
with you.
okay.
Okay.
And then if a board member so wishes, we could bring it forward to another meeting. Otherwise, we have the information until that time. Does that sound like a good way to wrap this up for right now? Okay.
All right.
All right, thank you so
very
much.
much.
All right, so now we are on item 3B. We have a discussion and possible action regarding Village of Oregon wastewater treatment plant facilities plan discussion with Town and Country Engineering and presentation of improvement alternatives to the plant. We have possible action to include the selection of the recommended improvement alternatives going forward based on the facility plan analysis. So, I'm sorry, remind me of your name, sir?
Ben Heidemann,
Yes, and you're from Town?
Town and Country
Yes.
Engineering. Yep.
So perhaps should we have Ben do, Ben?
Yep.
Good Lord, I'm losing it. Ben, do your presentation first and then consider motions, is that okay? Does everybody remember the mammoth meeting we had about this?
About a month ago,
Yeah,
month and a half
was
ago.
it really only a month ago?
December 9th. Oh, 2
Oh,
months
wow.
ago.
All right, cool. So now we have to make decisions, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
big picture where we're at today, I think it'd be best just to start with a background.
Yeah, I
It's
think
just a
that's- yeah, thank you very
brief one to
much.
bring everybody back up to speed. Facilities planning, big picture, what this is meant to do is give you guys guidance moving forward relative to your wastewater plant and how you guys treat wastewater here in the Village of Oregon. This process started like a year and a half ago, and I like to break the facilities plan into 3 components. The first component is, what do you want to plan for the next 20 years? DNR requires that we do a facilities plan for a 20-year planning period. So the first question is, what do you plan for? And we talked about that at your Public Works Committee about a year ago. And at that meeting, it was decided kind of what you wanted to plan around in terms of growth in the community. And it really just ended up paralleling your comprehensive plan. And that plan proposed, or that first part of the facilities plan proposed increasing the capacity of your treatment plant to about 3 million gallons per day from 2.5 right now. And that was primarily driven by clear water flow into your collection system, I&I. So leaks in the system getting into your sewers. Not necessarily that you need all of that capacity for growth of population into the future. Other constituents, the BOD, solids, phosphorus, and ammonia, we didn't really propose expanding a whole lot at the treatment plant. So that was all talked about, presented, moving forward. We laid out a variety of alternatives. Those alternatives in the big picture considered what do we do to stay with our treatment in the Village of Oregon versus what do we do or how would it look if we pump to Madison Metropolitan Sewerage District. And that has been all of the time since then, leading up to the discussion we had back in December. That discussion presented a variety of alternatives for staying where you are today, kind of getting broken down into a low cost and what we call an ideal alternative. The low cost alternative is kind of the bare minimum you need to make your treatment plant last for the next 20 years. What do you need in terms of equipment improvements? What do you need in terms of capacity improvements to meet that 20-year planning period? The ideal improvements that are listed here kind of take it the next step further and say, you know, if we're going to stay treating sewage in the Village of Oregon, what do we do to make this more of a permanent type solution that goes beyond 40 years? And in those situations, we look at kind of redoing your influent arrangement, influent pumping and influent headworks, where you take the trash out because those are marginal capacity as they are today. And then also that secondary separation portion of the facilities plan, looking at how do we make the treatment plant you have today flexible enough to meet any future demands that may come about that are just unknown at this point. So that's where that ideal alternative came about, as well as a variety of other alternatives that would kind of just been deemed not cost effective. The comparison to that then was pumping to Madison Met, and we considered two different arrangements for where is the pump station going to get located, and three different arrangements of where you're going to pump to. For the pump station, we considered what if we put it at the existing treatment plant versus what if we put it across Highway 14, kind of where the southeast pump station would be in the future. The hope of that would be you can avoid having two pump stations in the future. So you'd have your one pump station at the treatment plant and one for the southeast interceptor or southeast area, or you just have one pump station in the southeast area that collects all of today's sewage plus everything else that develops down in that southeast area. And then on the receiving end, where do we pump it to? We considered one option of pumping to Fitchburg, one of pumping to the Nine Springs Interceptor, which is Madison Met's interceptor that's located kind of down in that Cap Springs area. And then the last alternative was pump all the way to Madison Met. So last December when we sat down, we presented you all of those cost evaluations, both from a capital cost standpoint as well as from a present worth standpoint. The DNR requires that we evaluate everything using present worth dollars, and present worth means we're taking all of the capital cost in the year that we expect that to be expended, and then wrap in the operations and maintenance costs, any annualized cost that you experience, whether that be your cost of treatment or the cost from Madison Met for treating a gallon of sewage. That all gets brought into the analysis and brought back to today's dollars using an interest rate that the DNR dictates. And that officially is how you have to decide which alternative you're going to go about. So on the first table after the memo, that should look like a very similar table. That is the overall cost impact. So kind of working left to right, or top to bottom first, we've got what your existing costs are based on the 2018 audit. We've got alternative one, which is stay as Village of Oregon, the low present worth value. And then we've got alternative one, ideal present worth value. So that's the two options that I described earlier. And then just the range of costs from Madison Met, low to high, because right now we can't say we're going to do this option if we go to Madison Met, because there's a lot of negotiations that would have to happen before that gets selected. So in alternative two, I lump that as, you know, it's going to be in that range, whereas in alternative one, it's one or the other. Working our way left to right, the projected capital cost is the estimates to date of the capital expenses that will have to occur. For alternative one, low and ideal, that is all of the construction costs that you'll have to expend at your treatment plant in today's dollars. The alternative two includes the construction costs to build the pump station and any pipelines necessary to convey to the spot in which we presented in here. So that's either Fitchburg, Nine Springs, or the treatment plant. As well as any connection fees that Madison Met would impose upon the village. And that's the big cost implication here, is the connection fees. So right now, in 2019 dollars, you'd be looking at anywhere from a $6 to $12 million connection fee for today's residents to connect to Madison Met. They have a pretty accelerated schedule that we talked about last month, or back in December. that shows the connection fees essentially doubling by the year 2025, which is kind of roughly where we've said any real project that's going to happen isn't going to happen till roughly 5 years from now. So there's a pretty substantial increase in cost over time as it relates to that. And so that's what's really reflected here is that 27 million to 32 million is showing the 2025 capital costs. The actual in 2019 dollars, we talked about this before, but I didn't include it in the presentation, shows it between 20 and 25 million. So we're roughly adding $6 to $7 million in the future, the longer that time goes past. And then the next column there, so that projected capital cost is there. The total analysis and the DNR analysis, those are present worth figures. So those are the true numbers that the DNR requires us to use when you select an alternative. Total analysis is what we think should be used, which includes the connection fees. DNR has said you can't include connection fees in your analysis, so that's why we separated out a DNR analysis. So you can see they're all within a very close range of each other. The other thing I kind of closed with back in December was as long as the alternatives are within 10%, DNR considers them equal. All of these alternatives are within 10% based on their requirements for an analysis. So truly you get to choose which of these 4 alternatives you want to go with. Then the next column over I think is the biggest, in my mind, the biggest decision maker for you as a village, which is the annual cost. The annual cost presented there shows what the 2018 audit was, which really is just your O&M cost that you experience today, with each one below that then being anticipated future O&M costs plus any debt payments that would be associated with the projects that are being presented there. So you can see between going from 1.1 million annual cost to 2.2 to 2.2 to stay on your own, and as high as 4 to 4.5 million in future dollars to go to Madison Met. Now, we did make some assumptions in that, obviously, in terms of how those costs would get paid. For any construction capital cost, we've assumed it was a 20-year loan that the village would undertake through the DNR's Clean Water Fund. I believe we used an interest rate of 2 or 2.5%. And then for the Madison Met connection fees, we've assumed it was paid back over a 10-year period, I think at an interest rate of between 3 and 3.5%. So that kind of gives you the picture, and then that cost per user is not intended to be a user rate analysis. That is not what the average user will pay. It's just take these numbers, divide by number of users that you have today. There will be a lot more detail gone into, but it's intended to kind of show orders of magnitude of how these different alternatives will impact the village and the village's users in terms of cost. So that was kind of where we wrapped up back in December. Where we're at today is just kind of wanted to, now that you guys have had some time to stew on it, sit down again and get some feedback in terms of desires from the village. With that, we would take that then and prepare the final report and present that to the village for review. So this is more just us asking to confirm that you want to continue going in the direction we talked about back in December, and then you will be taking formal action on a facilities plan probably sometime in late March or early April. The steps going forward yet is after you tell us which direction you want to go, we'll prepare a more detailed user rate analysis of that specific alternative, and then prepare the final report, present the report to you, and then have a public hearing for anyone who from the public, in which we'll give a presentation kind of overviewing the entire facilities plan and take in any public comment that might be had at that point. It's not until that point that you guys would formally select to submit the facilities plan and move forward.
Yeah, Jeff?
So, just to kind of, I don't want to recap, but these are very big numbers. These are numbers that we have to face going forward for improvements at the plant, whether it's improvements to pump to MMSD or to stay here. You know, I look at this as, when we started this process, I had heard from so many communities, they were very happy to be able to pump to MMSD. When you're able to become part of a large group like that, of how many, 32 communities?
Something like that, yeah.
That actually pump or, you know, send their sewage to Madison Met, their rates are usually really good. They kind of pay lower rates than when you try to do it on your own. There's an economy of scale, so if new treatment requirements come down the pipe, as you've all heard about PFAS or anything else come down, whether it's anything coming out, you know, a new requirement, it's always better when you're with a large group of people because you can absorb those changes and those fluctuations and to some extent the worry of it. Because if we were pumping to MMSD, we would just continue to do that, and then it's their problem to deal with new regulations and permitting and everything like that. It also is very good for growth. You know, typically, Madison Met has not restricted growth on any kind of developments or anything like that. So there's a lot of pros to that. So when we started this process, I remember thinking this may be a very good time for the village to really seriously considering, you know, changing our treatment process to more of a pumping process to where we would pump at Madison Met. The difficulty is the financial strain that it appears to put on our residents in, you know, when we're talking about $12 million of connection fees or something, you know, of that magnitude of just, basically it's like paying a connection fee when you buy a building permit. You know, you're really not getting anything, but you're buying into the system. And that's a very challenging thing to face when you're looking at, we figured on average, it could be $4,500.
$5,000 per resident.
Per connection, per connection in our system. That's a lot of money, and there are a lot of families that would have a very big struggle with that. And then when you look at it, looking at the long-term present worth, it's about double. I thought it would be closer than that, but that's why we do these plans. We want to make sure that we're making good, educated decisions. Now, this is a plan. This doesn't mean that we are fixed to this from here to eternity. One of the things that I've directed Ben as they've looked into this is anything that we have going forward, we always look in it with the mindset of, is this something we can either reuse in the future, or is this make sense? Like if we build a pump station, we talked about this, overbuilding the pump station in size to allow us to convert that to a main pump station that we would pump to MMSD if it became more viable 20 years in the future. You know, so we're not losing out on some sunk costs here and everything like that. But you know, what the planning is showing is that, you know, the direction is that at least the smart financial direction is to look at these improvements to our plant for both treatment capacity as well as hydraulic capacity. And that's hopefully what you're seeing in this.
Questions or comments? Yes, Jerry?
Yeah, I agree with Jeff's summary there. It would make no sense to, at least to me, to change to MMSD right now and pay that huge connection fee. And you know, when you look at what the cost per user is, or would be, it's unaffordable in my estimation. The only time I can see doing this would be if our cost of treatment increases a lot,
Correct.
closer to MMSD, or for some reason MMSD decides to reduce that connection fee. So
Our user rates will probably be higher than what people on the MMSD system are paying.
Yep.
But
Either way, they would end up being that way because you have that added cost of conveying it as far as we do. You know, I mean, it's most of their other connections are much closer to the hub of MMSD or drained by gravity to MMSD.
And the last new connection of a community we said was Verona.
Verona,
and that was
93.
93. So we're into some unfamiliar ground here. You know, it's not been done in a very long time, but it doesn't mean, I mean, hydraulically it works. Long term, it makes
Right.
a complete amount of sense.
I truly think the biggest thing that's going to push it over anytime in the future is going to be when you guys run out of room on your existing facility. You know, and whether that's 20 or 40 years from now, someday that you're going to find a need to not have a treatment plant where it's located today. And at that point, it will make financial sense to go to Madison. There's no doubt about that in my mind. That'll be a big tipping point that pushes it over. The other thing I'll point out that I forgot to mention is we do have phasing built into everything for you guys. So we've, just in terms of assumptions, we've assumed for all of the MMSD alternatives that the connection occurs in 2025. For all of you guys stay on your own alternatives, we've got it kind of broken up into 4 phases. One thing that we did identify that you have a problem with is I&I, and in an effort to kind of give you guys credit for any improvements that you make in the next couple of years, phase 4, the very last phase, is kind of the bring everything up to snuff with the future flows with I&I. So if you make a bunch of improvements and reduce that clear water that's getting into your system, phase 4 may never be needed in this whole plan. So that's another important thing to remember in this, is there's that flexibility built in how you approach this. Is the better you make your system, the lower that capital cost number becomes for you as the village, which doesn't have quite as big an impact pumping to Madison, because we may reduce from a 24-inch pipe pumping to Madison to a 20, but the cost increment isn't quite as large because you're still doing just as much excavation, you're still doing just as much earthwork to put in a 24 or a 20-inch pipe as you are a 24. You're just paying a difference in material costs. So that's another important thing that gives you flexibility in how you treat your existing infrastructure, is that.
And we're actively pursuing I&I elimination. We're going at, we have a project that bids this Thursday that is going to be our first major manhole rehabilitation project and sewer lining project that we've undertaken in my tenure here. We've done some small ones. That's going to be several $100,000 that we've already budgeted and borrowed for, that is going to be going to the system. That's the low-hanging fruit, and those are fixing large leaks. If you think of what 20 gallons a minute does every minute, every day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, that adds a lot of water to our system. And you do a bunch of those, it can really start to help buy us some of that hydraulic capacity. But this is a plan. This is, I think, when we're talking about the 2 alternatives versus low versus ideal, low is very much a Band-Aid approach. It's kind of like if you have an old car and you're just fixing whatever happens to break, it's still going to be an old car. Whereas if you take an old car and you maybe refurbish it, put a new motor in it, new transmission in it, and now you've got another 20 years on the car, you're actually putting some investment into it to really buy the life out of it. And that's what the ideal option is. That gives us the improvements that we're not just, I'm always afraid if you're just barely fixing everything, we're falling behind. And what we don't, I think what came out of the December meeting is nobody likes waking up and finding out that rates are doubling. If you can incrementally increase your rates, as we should over time, and we have not changed our rates in a very long time period, then we're allowing the people who are using the system over time to be paying for that. And I think that's a much more fair and equitable way to treat it.
Yeah, Cory.
Can I make a motion to approve alternative 1 ideal?
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Yes, David?
Just a quick question. In the report that you put together, will that include the other alternatives?
Yes.
In their analysis?
Yep, all of them will be presented.
All right. So, just so I'm clear, we will have another chance, March
Yes.
or April, to come back and look at this with all the detail in front of us.
Correct. Yep.
That's one of the beauties about government, is that we're slow moving.
Yep.
It takes us
Especially
a
on
long
something-
time to make really bad decisions.
Especially in something like this.
Yeah.
We can make the wrong decision.
No, I'm just saying that's like one of the beauties of bureaucracy. It takes a long time to do stuff. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, Ben. So we will,
We're also going to do 90.
yes,
Okay.
yeah. So remind me, so when will this be back for us again?
March or April?
March,
I'm
April?
anticipating at your March or April meeting.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you for all of the analysis and the work that you've done on that, Ben. Thank you, Jeff. All right, so since Ben is here, we are going to go to 9G. So we just have to sit for everything between here and there. All right, so 9G is discussion and possible action regarding equipment selection, wastewater treatment plant blower upgrade project. We have a recommended motion to approve the Neros turbo blowers in arrangement number 3 of the memorandum from Town and Country dated January 24th, 2020 for inclusion in the blower upgrade project documents. So do you want to walk us through this, Ben?
Sure. So, again, just giving a real quick background, one of the things that came out of the discussions with the facilities plan over a year ago was that there's a pretty big deficiency in terms of equipment reliability with your blower arrangement. Most specifically with the electrical associated with the blowers. You currently need to hire an electrician every time you want to disengage or engage a blower from the electrical standpoint. That's the oldest portion of the treatment plant that sits there today. So we've been working with staff to evaluate the equipment that will be proposed in the construction project to upgrade your blowers. The way we do that is we put it out for bids, and we got bids from 11 proposals from 7 different manufacturers. The way we did yours specifically is we wrote a very, very generic spec, allowing a variety of technologies to bid. The reason we did that is the different technologies each have pros and cons. Some are lower capital cost, but a little less efficiency, and some are higher capital costs, more efficient. And then the added function to that is how can you use that in your existing spaces? Your existing blower room is very small and very difficult to work in terms of kind of phasing construction, not necessarily in terms of day-to-day operation for your operators. So some of the blowers, truly only 2 blower technologies fit in that existing space, and the rest of them would have to take up the rest, or your garage space that's adjacent to the blower building. So what we did was we evaluated all of the different alternatives. We prepared an incremental capital cost associated with them and an anticipated 20-year operating cost. That operating cost includes power, any O&M type maintenance things, oil changes, filters, belt changes, things like that, and kind of wrap that all in together of a 20-year cost of ownership. So just adding together 20 years of operation at those specific powers and at those specific O&M expenses, plus the capital cost of the equipment, plus a small factor, not the total construction cost, but a small factor associated with the differences in construction, whether we're utilizing an existing space or the garage space. And through that, we shortlisted with staff down to Airzen and Neuros as 2 different manufacturers, 2 different technologies, and after doing site visits and reference checks, staff and we would recommend that we go ahead with the Neuros Arrangement 3, which is both the lowest cost of ownership as well as able to fit into your existing blower room, which was viewed very favorably by staff in terms of space for storage and space for kind of isolating a piece of process equipment. What will mean from this point forward is whatever you guys decide to go ahead with in terms of blower equipment, we will design the project around them, put it out for construction bids. The construction bidding documents will include Neuros blowers, assuming we go Neuros blowers in Arrangement 3 for the price that they bid. And then that will be the bidding contractors will just use that number and that blower package in their bid when we take bids for that construction project.
Excellent. Any questions for this? Yes, Jerry?
Yes, Ben, thanks for your overview. That's quite a expansive chart you have here.
Sure.
Just for the viewing audience, and maybe for the board members that don't have a good memory like me, would you go over what a blower does?
Yep. So the blowers, I like to think of them as the heart of your treatment plant. So your treatment plant takes in sewage. The way yours is set up, you have a headworks which removes trash. Then you go through a secondary treatment process that quite literally does everything else. And that process relies on air being fed to it to remove BOD and ammonia and kind of grow a culture of bugs to remove all of those organisms. These are the blowers that feed the air that allows those bugs to breathe, essentially.
What's BOD?
Bioorganics. So
Organics, okay.
in general, the sewage that you get, we break it down into organics, solids, phosphorus, and nitrogen. And we need to make sure that it treats all of those. The biggest and most energy-intensive thing to remove is the BOD, the organics. And so this provides the air that allows that to get broken down.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Actually, I just
Oh, yeah, go
thought of
ahead.
another one. What's the life of a, this is about $800,000, right?
I would anticipate the construction cost is going to be between $1 million and $1.5 million
Okay.
once we get into it. Life of it, typically you're looking at 20-plus years.
20-plus years,
Yeah.
that was my...
One of the advantages of the turbo, which is the route that we're recommending, is there's no, it spins very, very quickly on an air bearing. So there's no lubrication and there's no belts or anything like that. So it's really just an air filter that is the wear element. The longer, and the installs that they have, it's a newer technology, it's been around for about 12 years, but the installs they have very little deterioration on them over the course of the life of that blower technology.
Yeah.
And that includes upgrading all of the electrical, so we don't
Yes.
have to call an electrician every
Correct.
time to
Yep.
turn it
So,
on
so
or
the
turn
intention
it
of this
off.
project is to address anything that predates roughly 1996,
Yeah.
something like that. So we're going to take out all of the 80s vintage electrical equipment, and then future projects will upgrade the more modern electrical equipment that is still there.
And this is, you're not buying these equipment tonight, you're not
Correct.
authorizing the purchase of them tonight.
Nope.
You're just, this is part of their design process as they prepare the design documents for the entire blower project, that what is it called?
1 to 1.5,
Yeah,
yep.
$1.5 million project. That's just part of it, and this is just basically allowing them to proceed ahead with the design in this direction, and that this will be the selected alternative for the blowers.
Typically, we wouldn't do this early on, but because the different technologies have such a big impact on, do we put it in the garage or do we put it in the blower room, we kind of need to make that decision now, which is why this was the first step that we took as opposed to step number 5.
So we have a recommended motion to approve the Neros turbo blowers in arrangement number 3 of the memorandum from Town and Country dated January 24th, 2020 for inclusion in the blower upgrade project documents. Does
So-
anyone want to make that motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, Ben.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. All right, scrolling back to item 4A. This is under the village attorney, village administrator report. Item A is a letter to Wisconsin River Trail Transit Commission regarding Frontier North, Inc. utility crossing issue. So we have a memo from Matt saying we're not going to do that, but hey, thanks for asking. Right?
Jeff, can you show the bridge,
I will, yes.
third page? So Frontier has been refusing to move those lines, and the Wisconsin River Rail Transit Commission wanted us to help put some pressure on Frontier by holding a permit for Frontier to get them to move those lines. And we determined we could not do that and would not do that, and that's what we had our village attorney send a letter to the commission saying that.
Excellent.
Similar letters were also sent to Alliant and I think there were 2 other letters that were sent out to similar entities that have it.
Oh, yeah.
Because Alliant has the power poles, and
Yeah,
I'm
right.
trying to think of who the other one was. But
Oh, it's in the letter. Yeah, it doesn't say in the letter. It mainly they're having issues with Frontier. but it's not our,
It's not our fight.
it's not our fight, the way you're saying it.
All right, so that's an FYI only. Item 4B, we have a discussion of possible action regarding the Lincoln Road Water Tower, proposed U.S. cellular lease agreement. So it looks like we can adjourn into closed session, but Jeff, do you want to walk us through this? You have a memo?
Sure. I don't really have a memo on this, and that's a little unusual.
That is unusual, yeah, it's just an email.
I know, but-
Disappointing, Jeff.
So US Cellular, it was a slow, sorry, I dropped the ball on
Yeah,
that.
I know, that's all right.
But no, this, US Cellular has for the last 2.5 years occupied some space out at our Lincoln Road tower. Off of Lincoln Road, it's the tall water tower out there. And they've been a great tenant. They've paid us, I think it's $1,850 a month, which is where our lease agreement is now. They have come back and I believe, everyone is upgrading now to 5G. I know that's 1G better than 4G. And that's about it on what I understand on that technology. But the thing is it involves quite an upgrade of both the height of the antennas, going from the height of the railing to about another 2.5 feet taller, I believe, and the number of amount of equipment up there. All I'm asking is that you would kind of authorize us, myself, to continue to negotiate with them. I'd still, as you can see in my email, I've asked for some renderings to come back, because I know we kind of want to get an idea of what it looks like. It's gonna look like a tower up there. They're doing the exact same thing with the US Cellular tower over at the high school, and that went through Plan Commission, last Plan Commission meeting, and they gave authority for staff approval on that. They've offered a $250 a month increase. I think that's a little light. I would like to, I've asked them for $450 a month, and I'd like to kind of hold to that. I think it's worth the space that they're renting up there, or that they'd be leasing up there. But before I have Matt do any kind of work on an amendment and everything like that, or amendment to our agreement, reviewing their legal document, I kind of want to get an idea from them if it's truly a non-issue, like they say, they'll just go to a tower on their own. I don't believe that's the case, but maybe. But that's all I want to do.
So it looks like you're asking us to let staff do the negotiating, is that correct? Right?
Correct, and then
Yeah.
we would bring a recommended lease and language back to the village board once that's all ironed out.
Okay. Anyone? Yeah, Randy?
Rendering.
And a rendering, yes.
David?
Just that, rather than go to closed sessions, I would just make a motion to allow staff to pursue the negotiations as outlined by Jeff.
Excellent. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking care of that. Let's see, we have no minutes tonight, which takes us to vouchers. So we have vouchers in the total of $456,437.18. Can I get a motion to approve on the table, please?
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions?
Well, Jeff has really learned to work between the lines here. So I couldn't find a thing here.
Hiding things well.
You shouldn't even joke about things like that.
No, this is true. We don't hide anything.
I did have one question, and it's not related to vouchers specifically, but have we ever looked at self-insurance on some of these things? I saw our insurance bill, non-comp, workman comp type workman for police and all the others, but do we have enough resources to be able to even consider something like that?
We have not looked at that in quite some time, because when we did look at it, the rates were not
Not good.
comparable, and I did that one time, and I'm not saying it's not a good idea, I regretted doing that with a different job.
Well, I'm not encouraging us to, if you would say it's not worth the time and effort.
I mean, I was part of a self-insurance pool, but it was a large pool in Illinois, I'm not sure that would be something we would do around here.
All right. No further questions. Roll call, please.
Pollock,
Yes.
Jacobson,
Yes.
Carpenter,
Yes.
Horton,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Glish,
Yes.
Donovan.
Yes.
Thank you. That's approved. So now we have community input. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to come on up? Yes, come on up, Hans.
One or?
Yeah, I believe so. Welcome.
Good evening. This on?
Can you hear it, Don? Actually, grab the wireless, pull it over, or the wire, yeah, there you go.
Is this?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. For the record, my name is Hans Neldner. My wife and I live at 133 West Lincoln Street here in the village. She has provided in-home daycare for Oregon children for almost 30 years. It is my privilege and great pleasure to walk a first grader to and from Prairie View Elementary pretty much every school day. We cross streets at 3 locations. Should I be closer?
Oh, you're fine.
fine.
Yep.
We cross streets at 3 locations, Lincoln and Main, Lincoln and Soden and Prairie View. All 3 have crossing guards, and we have become friends with them all. I have some very troubling news to report. Twice last week, and once the week before, motorists drove through the very same crosswalks this child and I use, and they drove through when crossing guards were already in them. I witnessed 2 of these incidents at Lincoln and Main last week. In one case, the crossing guard had entered the crosswalk well before a northbound motorist had even approached. The guard was near the center of the street when the northbound motorist on Main drove right through the intersection. I think the driver saw the guard, but apparently it didn't occur to her that she was obliged to stop. In another case, an eastbound motorist on Lincoln, who was turning left onto Main Street, narrowly missed hitting the crossing guard who was already standing in the crosswalk. It all happened very fast, but my impression was that this driver did not even see the guard until she was going by him. I think she was looking at traffic coming from the 2 different directions. I urge you to speak to this guard. He will confirm what I am reporting. Neither of these motorists bothered to stop and apologize. They had their windows rolled up and were deaf to our shouts. This, by the way, is something we should all remember. To get into a car is to choose a form of deafness. And of course, these reckless drivers had the advantage of being able to speed away, even though they put other people's lives at risk. In situations like this, the deck is always heavily stacked against the person who isn't in a car. I did not witness the violation at Lincoln and Soden, which took place 2 weeks ago, but the guard and an adult witness both say it was a close call. In all cases, the crossing guards were wearing a safety vest and were holding up a stop sign. The crossing at Main and Lincoln is clearly marked with signposts and paint stripes on the crosswalk. Lack of infrastructure was not the problem. And while I fully support the proposed crosswalks and signage you will be considering later tonight, I want to make sure you don't delude yourself that infrastructure is a silver bullet. Whether we use words like distracted or in a rush or just plain pushy, they all add up to threatening life and limb. Unfortunately, reckless driving in our community is made all the worse by a lack of rigorous enforcement. It festers and grows when motorists who behave badly learn they can get away with it. All 3 of the violations I'm relating to you were reported to the police department. We had only partial license numbers in 2 cases, and the 3rd was questionable. I believe the officers followed up to the best of their ability, but no motorist was approached as a result. Police officers have told us to record vehicular information, license numbers, and descriptions of drivers, and then report incidents to the police department. Of course, we attempt to do so, but the safety of our children must be our top priority. Indeed, it would be reckless for us to do anything other than protect those children at the very moment they're being threatened. Practically speaking, it is unreasonable to expect crossing guards or the adult guardians of children who walk to monitor and report reckless driving. This is a job for you, for local government. And the best way to catch reckless drivers is to put up some traffic monitoring cameras, ones with enough resolution to capture license numbers and thus provide law enforcement with the evidence they need to apprehend and prosecute violators. Reckless motorists tend to behave if they see police officers, but they quickly revert to pattern when they think they aren't being watched. We don't need cameras at every crossing. They could be moved around as appropriate. It is very important that these cameras be as inconspicuous as possible so that motorists can't tell whether or not they are present. If the Village of Oregon can afford to ticket cars parked on the wrong side of the street, cars which aren't posing a threat to anyone, or spend $100,550.64 on a lawnmower, we can afford to do a much better job of safeguarding walking school children and other pedestrians. Please, don't put this on hold until the next budget cycle. Don't wait until a reckless motorist kills a crossing guard or a child. Take decisive action now, as though the life of your own child is at stake. Thank you.
Thank you, Hans. So we have his comments entered.
I have a copy here. Thanks, Hans.
Thank you very much. Are there others who would like to speak tonight? All right. Then we'll just make sure that gets to the clerk. All right, so we are going on to item 8, proclamations and announcements. We have board comments. Staff comments. We have some upcoming meetings listed there. Anything to highlight, Mike?
Just February 24th, well, I'm sorry. We have a special board meeting next Monday because we're not having a meeting on the 17th because of the election. The 24th, we may have a public works meeting or a special board meeting depending on what's going on. And then we do have the 2 meetings in March.
All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Items on to number 9. So discussion and, this is communication and miscellaneous business. So item 9, we have a discussion of possible action regarding Chief Ewell's, Police Chief Ewell's resignation. We have a recommended motion that the village board accepts Police Chief Ewell's resignation and acknowledges his last day with the Oregon Police Department will be February 13th, 2020. The board also thanks Chief Ewell for his service with the village and wishes him good luck in his new position. So could I have a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
So we have a motion by Jenna and a second by Cherry. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Chief. Item B, we have a discussion and possible action regarding investigative report of Patrick Fiedler to Jeannie Carpenter, Village President, Village of Oregon, Village Board, regarding a complaint involving conduct engaged in by Chief Brian Ewell on the morning of September 6th, 2019. So in light of the previous agenda item, I guess this would be my recommended motion, that we accept the report, and then we refer it to the Personnel, Public Safety, and Protection for further discussion, and see if we can use this as a teaching tool for future, and see if there's any policies that we need to tweak. So I would propose that as a suggestion and a possible motion.
So moved.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second. Any discussion or other ideas? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. And that, for the public viewing, that report is in our packet, right?
Online, yep.
Yes. All right. So item C, we have a discussion and possible action regarding consideration of establishing salary for interim police chief position and recommendation to the Police Commission of appointing Lieutenant Pickenkoff as interim police chief. We can go into closed session, but I would prefer that we do this in open session. so a possible first motion that we have, and Lieutenant Pagankoff is here, thanks for being here, Jenny. A possible first motion to consider is that the village board recommends to the police commission that Lieutenant Pagankoff be appointed as the acting police chief by the commission, and that the board members appreciate the commission considering this recommendation from the village board. So would anyone?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Second. There's a motion and a second. And just for the viewing public, just to remind them that the police commission controls the hiring and firing of police officers and command staff. So we appreciate the commission even considering our recommendation.
Right.
All right. So any other questions during that one? All right, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. And the police commission meets when?
January 13th, sorry.
February 13th?
January 13th. January.
February?
Say it one more time, I'll get it right. February.
Gotcha, February 13th.
January, sorry.
All right.
That's fine.
Sorry.
So we apparently have a changing of the guard in the middle of the meeting. Isn't that interesting? Thank you, everyone. Yes, welcome, welcome, still Lieutenant Pagankoff. Police Commission's got to make it.
Or Jenny's fine.
Jenny. So I've
Go next to this guy.
Yes. So I've said this before to Jenny, but I always try to refer to her as Lieutenant Jenny or Lieutenant Pagankoff, because as a woman, I feel like it's important to remember and recognize your title. So please don't feel offended that I continue to call you Lieutenant Jenny or Lieutenant Pagankoff, because I almost always called Chief, or Chief Ewell or Chief Bryan. So just wanted to put that out there. That it's a woman thing to recognize a title.
Thank you.
All right. I don't know why I had to explain that, but I felt the need to apparently. All right. So now we have a possible second motion for consideration. I'm happy doing this in open session. If someone has a different idea, that's fine. But a possible second motion for us to consider tonight would be that the village board recommends Lieutenant Pagankoff's salary be increased to $101,543 for the period serving as acting police chief. And just for the viewing public, for some background, Chief Ewell's current salary is $109,513 a year. Lieutenant Pagankoff's current salary as lieutenant, second in command, is $91,543. And so the proposed acting chief salary is right in between that at $101,543. So I would, yes. So we have a motion to do the $101,543 as acting chief. All right, we have a motion and a second by Jerry. All right, discussion, questions?
Question, so we do
Yes.
control although we can't hire and fire, that's police commission, but we control the salary?
Yes, because we control the budget.
That's correct.
Okay,
It's
just to clarify
It's
for
an interesting
people.
setup, yeah, it's very interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think when the legislature was doing this, they were trying to divide the powers that be, which I don't think is a bad idea. But, yeah, so tonight we are recommending the commission consider our suggestion, and then, let's say that they do that, and then this would be the salary. Yes, David?
I don't want to be the old grumpy guy. I'll take over for Jerry. But in my,
we share it.
okay, in my work environment, when someone was asked to step up and fill in a position that was higher than them, there was no salary adjustment until that position was filled. This seems to be a little bit different. It is different. And do we have a history then of what other communities have done in these situations? Or is this setting a precedent for us going forward? Whenever there's a position where someone has to act as that superior, we're going to be expected to provide some monetary remuneration for that.
I guess in my mind, David, Jenny she's not just going to be the acting chief, she's the acting chief and the lieutenant. She's doing two jobs.
As would anybody in private business be. That's my point,
Sure.
is that the expectation is it's going to be short-lived. It's going to be, and I don't know how long this process will take. It may take a lot longer than I think, but that's what's expected in private business, is you step in, you fill in, you do your job, and you fill in the other one. You do more with less, as the saying goes. And I just don't know if this is a bad precedent for us to be setting at this time as we move forward. It doesn't mean that I don't value her work or what she does or who she is. It's just, that's the environment that we work in.
Corey, do you want to go first and then Jenna? Or
Sure.
do you want to duke it out? Okay, Corey, go first. Yeah.
So, you know, I guess, you know, we're in a position here where, you know, we're in need of somebody to step in to fill this role, and I'm, I guess, completely on the opposite end of the spectrum. You know, when somebody is willing to do that, I think by all means they should be compensated for doing that additional role. My question is what is the salary range that we will be looking at for the police chief position when we do hire that? Because I don't think that the acting chief's salary should be less than that for sure.
The 109 is Brian's, as it says, current salary, and that's average compared to our comparables. So everyone got a raise the last couple of years. All the department heads are, at this point, supposed to be at the middle range of against our comparables.
So do we have a high and a low range
Mhm.
for starting?
I don't know what it is off the top of my head. I couldn't tell you that.
Do you know if this number's within the range?
Oh, it's in the, oh, yeah, it's in the range,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But the 109 is, we're trying to get everyone up to the average as compared to our comparable communities. And that's where Brian is right now.
Did that answer your question? Okay. Jenna, did you have a thought?
I was just going to say that I agree with I agree with paying Lieutenant Payne-Cock more while they are the acting chief, because I very firmly believe in paying people for the work that they are currently doing, not just giving them the opportunity to stretch themselves in that way. Additionally, I'll just leave it at that. I think we should be paying her for the work that she's doing.
Well, and I just want to point out that if we appoint a new chief, whoever that is, in 4 or 6 months, we wouldn't be paying the entire difference. You know, it's short term. Those are yearly numbers, so it's not as big an increase as it looks like on paper here. So I like the middle range. I think it's smart.
All right. Any further discussion? Yes, David?
My question hasn't been answered. Do we have is this a precedent for us?
We
Or
have,
do
we have done it in the past, and this is pretty typical in municipal government to do that.
That's my,
Yeah.
that was really my question.
Yep.
Thank you.
And by the way, she should be referred to as Lieutenant Peckinpah. She deserves it. She's earned it.
Thank you. All right. Any further questions? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Excellent. All right, so 9C is done. Welcome to the table, Lieutenant Peckinpah. All right, so 9D. This is just a quick statement by me regarding the first Diversity and Inclusion Advisory Committee scheduled for February 20th. So Alice Egan was here a few meetings ago, and we encouraged her to establish this committee that would report to the village board. And then in my email communication with her, I mentioned to her that there were several board members who were interested in attending. And she made a very eloquent response to my email that basically boiled down to, hey, if you could not do that, that'd be great. I mean, she was very, very professional. But her gist was, for the first 2 or 3 meetings, she would really like to have in attendance people who live in the community, who basically don't look like us, and feel welcome to talk about any struggles or things that they're experiencing in the community, who may not be they might not feel as comfortable saying those things if there were village board members in attendance. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So she asked if perhaps, for sure, the first meeting, perhaps the first 2, she's going to let us know how it goes. If she could let the committee maybe do some work, report back to us, and then she very much welcomes our inclusion and our participation, but that was a suggestion from her. And I admit that had not occurred to me.
That was a great point she made.
Yes.
That's great.
So that's That's why I think it's probably the definition of white privilege, right? That had not occurred to me.
Well, but then like, you made a great point that it allows people to come to the meeting if they want to talk about the village board members and I'm not sitting in the room. It gives them more of a comfort level to do that. So
Right.
I think it's good that, well, in my opinion, I'm going to stay away for a while.
Yeah. So basically, we're putting Alice in charge of, for sure, the first meeting, and have her report back to us and go from there. Is that, there's no motion here, that's just, and she didn't ask me to tell you that, I just wanted to tell you that. So, FYI. And I know that I've seen her emails to folks in the community, she's inviting a broad group of people. I think she even put something out on social media, inviting people, so I feel like this is gonna be a good thing.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah. All right, so that is that. Item E, update regarding the BMO Harris property. The owner of property has informed the village the property is not for sale. So those of you who've been on here for a while know that in our broad spectrum of civic campus planning, all these properties we're always talking about them. And BMO Harris is not interested in selling their property at this time. So take that out of your wish lists, your mental pictures of how village things may look. Yes, Jerry?
Yes, but on a more positive note, they are aware that we would be interested possibly in the future.
They are, but they're more interested in rehabbing the building
Right,
and keeping
right.
it.
But if things change,
Potentially.
they know we're in the market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Communication is always good.
I want to thank, at least did a lot of outreach to them and worked on it for about a good month and a half, and at the end he said they're not interested in selling, so that's what it is.
Yeah, that's what it is. Thank you, Elise. And you're young enough that you might be here when they ever change their mind. We may not be, but you will be. Yeah, all right. All right, so item 9F, we have an update regarding well number 6. We have a letter from the Department of Natural Resources. Jeff, do you want to talk about this at all?
Yeah, this is just a standard, kind of a part of the process of getting the site and well approved. It's up there in Highlands of Netherwood. This is the letter from DNR, and it's all positive. It just kind of, says that they submitted the well site investigation report, and they are approving the report and the well site subject to the conditions, and they're fine. So.
Do you know where this is? I shouldn't ask it that way.
Isn't
Sorry.
this the
Sorry,
one-
I'll make it more of a statement.
Yeah.
This is going to go on Highlands and Netherwood.
Yeah, isn't this one that we moved?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Correct. We moved a little farther away. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yes, Jerry?
Yes, could I ask a little bit more explanation for the recommendation? And I'll read the recommendation. It says the department recommends pumping well number 6 over the other Village of Oregon wells due to the potential for impacts to a nearby spring from the operation of the well. I have a hard time understanding what that is about.
Well, it's just, I think that the spring that they're identifying is the one off of Butter Factory Creek. That's my understanding of it, unless anyone else.
Yeah.
And
I don't know.
It's a standard, they want you to pump as far away from the spring as possible to not affect it. We've honestly been having plenty of springs in the village this year. So, that's just kind of a standard, comment that they would have on something like this.
That's why when I read it, I had the same reaction. It's kind of
Now, what's
a letter
yeah.
that they put out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So again, well number 6 would be on the
far west.
West side.
far west side.
Yeah.
Almost in,
Hermson's Park.
Hermson.
It's not in the park, but it's
But
pretty
almost-
close.
I mean,
Okay.
almost within
All right. Thank
a
you.
couple hundred feet of it, yeah.
I think it's part of, is it like phase 4 of Highlands and Netherwood, something like
Correct.
that, yeah.
But it kind of, I'm still confused why they're concerned about Butter Creek when it's,
They're just generally concerned with springs. Springs are held in high regard by DNR.
okay.
Yes?
Just
Nick?
for clarification on terminology, what do they mean by pump over in that same recommendation?
Let's see, there's pumping, meaning using well 6 over using other wells.
Okay,
Yeah, in priority.
okay.
Yep.
That doesn't make sense to me, though.
It's not grammatically correct.
Okay.
I agree.
Just,
I read it about 3 times, I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I would've, but.
because they're concerned about the spring, yet they want us to use it as one of our higher priority wells. It didn't make sense to me.
Right.
That's where the confusion comes in.
The bottom line is they're telling us we can,
I got that.
All right, so that's an FYI only?
Yeah, yes,
Thank
exactly.
you. All right, so now we are on to item 9H. So we have a discussion on possible action regarding Lincoln Road reconstruction, engineering services. We have a recommended motion to approve a task order with Rupert Milkie in the amount of $15,750 for the design, bidding, and construction management of Lincoln Road from Union Road to the village western boundary. Does someone feel comfortable making this motion, or would you like to discuss first? Randy's gonna make a motion. Jerry's gonna second it. We have a memo from Jeff that, Jeff, you talk about the discrepancy in these bids.
Correct.
But it sounds like Rupert Milkie has done a lot of work already.
They have. They've done a lot of work already, and you know, as with anything, when we get something like this, I talked really quite frankly with them. Hey, can you do it for this? Are you comfortable with this? Because we never want to feel like someone's going to come back right away and just ask for a lot of money, and they know that they're not going to be able to do that. ESP should be a fairly straightforward project. It's a rural road, except for some small urban sections down near the village proper. You know, we accelerated this to a 2020 project after things kind of fell apart with the bike path. And we've got the money in the funds, and the town is also moving forward. And so what we hope to see out of this is a wider road, a brand new surface, some shoulders, and hopefully a lot safer environment.
Yeah, very much needed.
Yeah.
Gene,
Yes, David?
I think I might have to abstain from this. My son lives along Lincoln Road, and this will benefit him significantly for just safety and road access. So I don't know how that plays into
Will
this.
it financially benefit you in
No,
any way?
it will not.
Then no, you don't have to
Okay,
abstain.
all right.
But thanks for that. Thanks for asking, David. Yes, Jerry?
Do we need to go on record regarding the wide discrepancy in the bids and just put Rupert Milkie on notice that we will look very unfavorably on any change orders?
They know that already. But
Just tell them Jerry Bollock said, and that's all we really need.
the fear of God.
He's writing this down. Do you see
You're
this?
piling
He's
on
writing
now.
this down.
We got more, Jerry.
It's endless, isn't it, David?
they do a lot of work with us, and they want to continue to do a lot of
I don't
work
doubt
with us.
that. I just, whenever I see a discrepancy or a range like that,
Correct, I agree with you, and that's why I followed up to
I know.
say, you know, one side he says, hey, great, the other side he says, oh, wow, you know, so
That's exactly the range of emotions I went through.
yep.
That's a duly noted, Jerry.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve this task order. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
That is very exciting to me that is moving forward.
Yeah. And we also, honestly, from our side, maintaining Lincoln Road is a
Nightmare.
equipment and personnel and safety. When I have individuals out there that are pothole filling, have we not had the police to come out just to have a car parked over the hill with warning lights?
Really?
Just because it's not as safe to have someone out there filling potholes when people are coming over the top of the hills and everything, so. But, you know, we spend a lot of money on cold patch, on hot patch, on shouldering, and so we think this will be a win-win for everybody. And it should be noted that, actually, should we note that that the funds for this are coming from fees that have been collected for the last 16, 17 years, developer fees that have been collected as Bergamot has brought in each phase. And so.
I think it's important to note for the record.
Not only has it come in at that, but then there's been a lot of interest in that, as it's been in an interest-bearing account that Lisa's managed. So this is a good thing.
Thank you, Jerry.
Yes, you anticipated my first question, Jeff. Very good.
When I start thinking like you, it's time to retire.
For me or you?
Yeah, well, no. I'll let you decide.
Have you been in communication with the town of Oregon regarding their plan to do this? Are we coordinating?
I've left messages with the town chairman. I've not heard back from him.
Okay, because I will convey your concerns tomorrow night, because they have a meeting tomorrow night.
Yes.
And I'll talk to them about that, but my last recollection is that they want to do this all at the same time.
Correct.
And you're only going out to Glenway, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
It's not the end of the world. If the projects don't perfectly align time-wise, it's not the end of the world. It's
not.
It happens all the time. But ideally, in an ideal world, we have the same contractor and they just keep going. But we'll have to go through the bidding process and see who gets the project.
Okay.
All right, going on to item 9I. I'm sorry. Someone?
I'm sorry, I'm just, brain fart.
That's all right. So we have a discussion on possible action regarding the Perry Parkway connection final payment. We have a recommended motion to approve payment application number 5 to Parisi Construction Company in the amount of $73,510.62 for the 2018 North and South Perry Parkway Utility and Street Improvements Project. Anyone like to make this motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion in a second. Any questions?
Where are you getting all this money, Jeff?
Lisa keeps giving it to me. She finds it. No, this is all money that's already been borrowed and part of the project. This is basically release of the retainage on the project.
The engineers have certified it's complete.
Yes, correct.
Okay. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. All right, discussion and possible action regarding the Toro Groundsmaster 5900. We have a recommended motion to approve procurement of the Toro Groundsmaster 5900 more from Reinders for the amount of $550.64. Funding will be from the 2020 borrowing. We have a memo from Jeff. This is in the capital improvement plan, right, Jeff?
Correct.
This mower?
It's in our borrowing plan and our CIP. It's just with mowers, you want to be able to, first of all, get in their queue early on, and then secondly, we don't want to buy it before we've done our borrowing, because we want to be able to pay them within the 30-day payment requirement. So my plan is we approve this, we'll require them to give us a June 1st delivery date, which puts us within the borrowing plan for our funds.
And the mowing season.
Exactly.
Yep. Do you need move approval?
I have a motion to approve. Second. Amanda, do you have a question?
No,
Okay.
second.
Gotcha. Yeah, Corey?
Do we have any kind of penalty in the contract if they don't deliver the mower in time?
No.
Have you had issues with them?
Not at all.
Because I know on plows that sometimes can be a big issue.
Well, plows, that's when you're getting them retrofitted
Yep.
up at
Yep.
Monroe Truck or something. Yeah, no, with these, in fact, they kind of like having, as long as we'll let them know that it's supposed to be here. But we haven't had any trouble with Rangers.
I guess one other thing, Jeff, do you know how many acres that we mow? Just roughly.
So many.
I guess the point that I want to make is this is a $100,000 mower.
Yes.
But for us to be able to maintain things the way that our community expects it to be maintained, we can't do it without equipment like this.
Correct.
So, as much as it costs a lot of money, it's kind of the cost to be in a local unit of government.
Yeah. Exact acreage, I don't know. That was 2 years ago. I could have told you in my sleep. But many.
All right. Yes, Jerry?
What's the anticipated life of this mower? How long do you think it'll be in service?
10 to 15 years.
Thank you.
How much more expensive was the one with the cab?
It's about another $15,000.
So we went with a sunshade.
Correct. I made that call. Number one, it was too high for what we had borrowed for and what we were in our capital improvement plan. The other one is Quite honestly, we've had some repairs in the past 2 years to some of our cabs, and they've been expensive.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to.
Also, can't you see better without a cab?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
all right. Pretty pictures, nice job, Jeff.
Those are from Gary. Yeah, he did a nice job in getting this ready for me.
Excellent, thanks, Gary. Thanks to all the Public Works, I don't think we have women working, men, I would say men and women, but maybe future.
Yep.
For doing all this work, by the way. And they treat our equipment well, and we appreciate that.
Plus, buying a mower this time of year just makes you feel like summer's right around the corner.
Sure, let's go with that. All right.
I think we have to vote.
Oh, we haven't voted yet. I'm so sorry. Everyone in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you for keeping me on task. All right, item K, we have FYI, the village is purchasing new additional holiday decorations for streetlights with the Chamber of Commerce for a cost of approximately $3,000 with possible funding from the village's share of room tax collection. So we have pictures of these. So these will be pole lights and snowflakes. And so these will go like on the street on.
I'll let Jeff or Judy talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
They've been working.
You want
on
to tell
it
us where these will go, Jeff, or?
Yeah, these, well, if you notice, we have obviously, I think, what, 16 or 14 new poles that went up with the Jefferson Street. We added some really nice lights to those this last year. They look really, really nice going down Jefferson Street. And Judy came to me one day and she said, well, what if we need to get more, we need to update some of our decorations. Because honestly, my guys spent a lot of time this last year Band-Aiding a lot of things, and so it's been a long time since we've done that. Typically, this time of year, we get kind of it's like going to Target, right? And you
Sure.
look at the Christmas decorations, and they're 50% off, and that's really what we're taking advantage of here.
I like it.
Yep.
Yeah, some of those, would this be replacing the snowflakes or just doing additionals?
Some of both.
Okay, good, yeah, because some of them are looking a little peaked.
And we did order 27 for the price, so we're hoping that maybe once Park Street is done, we can put some.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Hotel too.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of the benefits of having room tax collection, is that we now have a fund to make things look attractive for tourists, and we want to attract to have overnight stays. Yeah. All right, so I think that's very good. Yes, David?
2 questions. Are the poles village poles or Alliant Energy poles?
The ones in the downtown, all the downtown areas are village poles. The ones that are along like the highway and other stuff, those are Alliant.
Do we know whether these decorations will satisfy the new national standards that have come out for placement of attachment to utility poles? And the only reason I ask is that this is the last project I worked on before I retired from my previous job, and it caused no end of heartburn for some of the local communities in northwest Wisconsin.
The look of, I had never thought of that on my face is, yeah. I mean,
Did that go into effect?
It is, it's been in effect for over 5 years, and that's the issue, is the shifting of the liability related to if there's an outage that's caused by something like this, maybe an arc or whatever it might be, who ends up paying? And so we need to be very careful about that.
Judy, I know you've been in discussion with probably John Z. Has that ever come up?
No, I'd be glad to call,
Okay.
Call somebody at
We'll ask
Alliant,
them
they'll
and
know
make
about
sure.
it. It's an issue that's going through the utilities quickly. They're the ones that are gonna give you the actual code, and they'll be able then to educate you on who to talk to at the decoration company.
Okay.
I don't wanna stop this, but I wanna make sure we do it right.
That's good, thank you.
well,
I mean-
Johnny did all our other ones for us, 2 years ago, and he just put them up for us.
Yeah.
And I have a good relationship with Alliant Energy, and tell us that's true, and they never charge us anything.
That new standard is so restrictive, you have to watch where you put flower plots on poles. It's really quite restrictive.
So Judy, you'll work with Alliant to make sure it's all good? All right, thank you.
I'm trying to figure out, should I stop the order for now?
No.
No,
No, I wouldn't do that. I just make sure you act on it quickly. And they might have a different view of this than what my company did, but
So what are they calling it?
it's the National Electric Safety Code for attachment to poles.
I have a question though. I mean, is it possible that they would say that these aren't gonna be allowed, in which case we could still use them on our village poles, is
Absolutely.
that what we're saying?
Yes,
So that's why we're not gonna
That's
cancel
why I
the
asked the
order?
question.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, and maybe it just has more to do with placement?
It is placement. It's distance from transformers and power lines, and because it's all about, are they safe enough to prevent an arc that might occur during a storm, or a rain event, or a snow event?
Okay, thank you.
All right. All right, so we have item L, alternate member Ken Clues has resigned from the park board. He sent us a very nice email saying that he started a different job and his schedule does not allow him to be here on Wednesdays. So thank you, Ken, for your work on the park board. And I'm guessing that at another meeting we'll vote on putting the application on the website, or
I can just do that.
just want to do that? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, so on to item 10, report of committees. So item A is Personnel, Public Safety, and Protection Committee from January 27th, 2020. So I will turn this over to Trustee Jacobson.
Thank you. So at the meeting on January 27th, we discussed changing the summer hours for Village Hall, as we've done the past 3 years. Basically, that the Village Hall would not be open on Friday afternoons for the public to come in, but people would still be working there. It's easier to do that than try to work around all the vacations and things that happen over the summer. So I'm putting forth the motion that was approved 3-0 by the committee to recommend to the village board the approval of Village Hall summer hours, closing at noon to the public on Fridays from May 1st, 2020 to September 4th, 2020. May 1st, 2020, the Village Hall will be closed all day for record retention cleaning. Somebody want to second that for me?
I'll second.
Thank you, David. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Thank you very much.
Telling her we still have to work though.
Yay.
But think of everything that you'll get done without having to deal with people that come in, like us.
The other item that we discussed was the credit card policy, code of ethics and purchasing policy. There was some questions around making sure that that was in alignment with our expectations with staff, with how we wanted staff to be using it. So it passed 3-0 by us, so I guess I'll put forward an additional motion to direct staff to make the revisions to the credit card policy, code of ethics, purchasing policy, per the village attorney's email in the.
So Jenna, I'm asking that we wait to do that.
Oh.
If we could, please.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
That's
I
okay.
missed that. I
That's
saw
okay.
that part.
I want to talk a little bit more, as I mentioned at the committee meeting, to the department heads before, and then I'll bring it back.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah, okay.
All right, never mind.
Do you need a motion to table, or are we just
No.
gonna not?
There was no
I
second.
just, I put it on the agenda, I wanted the board to know that we were working on it, and I'll bring it back then. I should have made it clear, sorry.
So, I just totally missed it. So trying to make sure I didn't trip up what I said. All right.
You're done? All right. So now we go into item B, Public Works and Utility Committee meeting from January 27th, 2020. Trustee Bollig.
Thank you. We had 3 motions that resulted from the meeting, all having to do with new crosswalks. First motion I'm about to make was a request by Sarah Perkins for a crosswalk to be installed on Woodward Lane. And and again, all these motions, Public Works Director Rao went out and he ascertained that this is a valid request, all 3 of these. So my first motion is to direct Public Works to install a painted crosswalk at the locations on Windward Lane and Leeward Lane per the map provided in this packet. And are you gonna indicate that up there?
Yeah,
Where it is?
yeah, so just so you're, for reference, this is
Yep.
Rome Corners Intermediate School. We have a flashing beacon right out here. And there's actually a paved concrete path, I believe, paper asphalt path right through here. And then there's one all the way over to here, as well as all the way down to Lincoln. What we've been trying to encourage residents, as you know, we've made some improvements out here in working with the school district for drop-off. We've tried to encourage parents to be looking at alternate spots to drop children off, so it's not just all right in this area and causing the congestion. So, parents are now dropping kids off over here, and then the kids can walk this little path, and then they have the flashing light, the rapid flashing beacons, then to be able to cross this location. It's a great solution. She requested that we look at putting a painted crosswalk here. I think it's a great idea. So it's really just a painted crosswalk and some signage, which we can do very simply. And I figured if we're all going to do it here, we should also do it here on Windward, or Leeward Lane, I'm sorry. So that was the recommended motion I did. Was there-
Question, because I can't remember from the Public Works discussion. Is this the good paint with the grit in it?
We're
So-
working, yes, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
anything we do going forward is, we're going to be putting grit or
Okay.
sand or something in it
Good.
to help, yes.
Thanks.
Okay, I made the first motion. Would someone care to? Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. My second motion, again, is a crosswalk. This one requested by Mark Siebertson for a crosswalk on North Prairie Parkway at J.C. Park. We've got a motion to recommend to the village board making sure that there is a crosswalk in place with the renovations planned at J.C. Park West. And again, there is a big plan for J.C. Park West, and this is just to ascertain that when the park reservation is done, that we have a new crosswalk, a very clearly marked crosswalk by that.
Yeah.
Jeff, you want to show?
Well, right now, they don't, there's no really good alignment. This one comes out and is pointing kind of northeast. This one comes straight out. There's no path along the soccer field over here, and it's just not really well situated there. So the plan is, and knowing that we're going to be doing J.C. Park West, same thing here with alignment. Here the paths don't line up real well. But as part of the design for J.C. Park West, we should be incorporating it so that we can have possibly some mid-block crosswalks at these locations.
I'll second Jerry's motion.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. My third motion is is a request by Jamie Frisch for a crosswalk and sidewalk near Bergamot Boulevard at County Highway CC/Jefferson Street. The motion is to recommend to the village board, recommend the village board direct Public Works Director to include funding in the 2021 budget for sidewalk ramps, signage, and a painted crosswalk at Bergamot Boulevard and County Highway CC/Jefferson Street. Jeff, you want to?
Sure. So the request was kind of for two significant upgrades. One is crosswalk improvements right here, which is at Bergamot Boulevard. They actually requested even like a flashing light. I don't believe there's a pedestrian demand amount that's going across here that would really warrant a flashing beacon, as there's a ton of people coming over here, and when you start to get too many of them in a row, people get kind of just blind to them. But I do think if I zoom in on here, you can see that there's really not good ramps over here. There's no painted crosswalk, and that there would have to be some concrete work done on this transition to be able to get this to line up. And that would be a project that we can do in Public Works, but it would take some funding, and so we just would plan to do that in 2021. The other request is for a sidewalk that would connect basically North Bergamot Boulevard with down at North Alpine Parkway. Problem with that is there's some right-of-way, it's county highway still, there's town properties. It's not part of the budget right now, and so the recommendation was to not pursue that at this time. It's always on our thoughts as far as Highlands of Netherwood develops, it'll push the need for that further out and hopefully have the connectivity there. Right now, we have great connectivity to the park and everything, both through Oregon Parks Avenue as well as Drumlin Drive, for people wanting to go east and west and not having to go on the highway at that location. So that was our recommendation.
Okay, you've had my motion. Would someone care to second it?
I'll second it.
David?
When is CC going to be redone by the county? Do we know that?
I don't know that that's in the capital plan anywhere, is it?
It's way out there right
Yeah.
now. And the reason it's way out there is, and they did quite a bit of work repairing the asphalt there this last year. The stretch that is from basically the Ash Street, is that right? Ash Street all the way to the western boundary is on some really poor soils. And that's why the road's failing. When Dane County looked at it 2 years ago, came in and did soil borings, they were estimating an undercut or an over excavation of almost 6 to 7 feet along the entire route. And it was a multi-million-dollar project. And that's not something they're ready to bite off yet. Neither are we.
Well, they can't turn the road over to us because of the town islands.
It's also
out there,
town
yeah.
islands, yeah.
So, you know, they have an incentive to do the other roads with us because they want to give us the roads, as you know, David.
Yeah, so
Brings
if
back
you
good
look
memories,
on,
eh?
No, not good at all.
so if you
But this they can't because of the town islands.
You look on this map here, and this is, whoops, you can see this is Bergamot Boulevard here. We've got 2 town islands
Okay.
that come in and still occupy these areas. So there's still some politically things that have to happen to make that a viable option.
One more question, if I may. Your concern about flashing lights at this location versus having them too close together? I don't disagree with that, but I'm not sure only crosswalks solves the big issue out there
It doesn't.
with this. So I'm a little hesitant to bite off something in the budget that we don't fix the problem. Not that we shouldn't fix the problem, it's just, I'm looking at the bigger picture and trying to figure out what do we really need to do. The other thing too is at that corner, the turn lane dips significantly. And so there's gonna have to be a buildup, at least of some kind, to levelize everything out there.
I just wrote myself a note. I think in the development agreements we had with Bergamot and Lodopolis, I think that this intersection, we can tap into that funding that we've been collecting on
We
CC.
have intersection
Yeah.
improvement funding.
Yeah,
for
I
that.
wanna look at that again. I'm pretty sure we could do that.
But, yeah, what is your concern?
Just that I don't think it's gonna really solve the basic root cause of what's out there.
Which is,
That, there's gonna be, I don't think it's gonna address safety.
okay.
Ultimately, it's not gonna address the safety that's needed out there.
I think, Hans kind of hit the nail on the head, and I agree with him, wholeheartedly. How many times we walk on these crosswalks and people just blow right through. It's a mentality thing, whereas I think you can go into places in Madison and literally you come up to the road in your bike and you'll get 4 or 5 lanes of traffic stop. So I think we need to focus on changing people's mindset on becoming more of a pedestrian-friendly community. And some things that Elise is doing are helping that too.
Well, people will stop for you. People will stop for you when you're crossing Alpine Parkway because now there's a signals,
Right.
not signals, sorry, the lights. You're right, on this intersection, you have to run across.
You do, I agree with that, I've seen it. And people don't start to slow down
Yep.
from CC coming from Fish Hatchery
Yep.
until they hit Bergamot.
Yeah.
Then they'll start to slow down because, while they're supposed to, that's when they start to coast or brake.
Yep.
Go ahead, Amanda.
So the speed limit right there at that intersection is still,
35.
35.
it's 35 at there?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. All right, yeah, because cars fly through. I guess I thought it was 45
No.
there
It
on
goes,
the
I
way
think it
down.
goes 45 out here, and then it goes to
Right.
35 right around here.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
It's 55.
55 to
55,
35.
yeah.
50, okay.
And they really don't start slowing down until they hit Bergamot. Then you start to see them, the brake lights
Yeah,
flash on.
yeah. No, I agree with that. I just didn't know what the legal limit
Yeah.
was right there. I
Yeah.
know it goes down at some point. Okay.
All right. Peggy, do we have a second on this motion?
Yes, Peterson.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I'm gonna vote yes for this, but I don't think it solves the problem. And
Okay.
I really would like to see this come back once we get a better feel for, maybe we can ask the county what their long-range plans are. We can find out, because that, to me, was where we would incorporate the crossing into that fix.
Okay. Duly noted. Hearing no further discussion on that item, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you, Jerry. We have no minutes requiring action. We don't have any unfinished business. I don't think we have any new business, so, and we don't have to go into closed session, because once again, we did everything in open session. Score. That's always my goal. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Sorry to hold you up with all my questions.